What's your superpower? I have a friend who loves to ask people this question. He's not talking about invisibility, but deceptively normal sounding things that you do freakishly well without great effort. I know someone who operates like a human thermostat. He sets the mood and the energy of every room he enters just by showing up. I know a woman who spends 5 minutes with people and somehow knows all their deepest secrets. I have a friend with a backbone of steel. I have one who sees things everybody else misses. I know a person who could organize the debris still swirling inside a tornado. Do you have any idea what your superpower is? In Jesus' time, it was common for teachers to have a group of disciples. A disciple was like a student, but if studenting was an extreme sport, a disciple would get an all-access pass to everything his teachers did, in public and in private. He was meant to discern the lessons hidden in all of it, even in how his teacher gestured his hands or ate his lamb chop. Who a teacher took as his disciples was a big deal and said a lot about him. Jesus gave his first 4 spots to backwater fishermen. None of these guys had distinguished themselves as great students or scholars. They weren't from wealthy or influential families. They were working a physical job on the night shift, sweating and smelling like 6-day-old sushi. Yet, one morning, Jesus walks by a group of buddies untangling empty nets and looking depressed. And Jesus decides these are the guys he has to have as his apprentices. What did Jesus see in them? They've got to be wondering this. So do their neighbors. I mean, these guys are not religious prodigies. It's not even clear they're that good at fishing. And yet Jesus picks them seemingly from nowhere and offers them a new job, fishing for people. Not every person who has their life changed by Jesus is asked to change jobs. Some leave their boats or farms or villages and go to places they never imagined going. But many, even most people who encounter Jesus, he sends back to the boats and farms and villages where they came from. It's important to recognize what's going on here. There aren't 2 classes of Jesus followers, the ones who get big, important assignments and the ones who don't. Jesus is not picking out the most promising prospects and then tossing the bone weirdo fish back into the lake. Every person who signs up to apprentice with Jesus is accepted, and every disciple gets an assignment. You can think of it like this. Jesus has said that God has sent him to build a new world of beauty and justice where everything works as it was designed. At the beginning of the Bible, that perfectly operating world is pictured as a dazzling garden called Eden, where human beings are the beauty gardeners. Every person who signs on to apprentice with Jesus is assigned a patch of Earth's garden. It's their job to tend that patch of soil until it's as fully alive as it can be, and growing whatever kind of fruit it was meant to grow. Now, maybe you're feeling some doubts about your skills as a gardener. Friends, I once killed a cactus in less than 6 weeks. Those things can survive on their own for like 100 years with nothing but a few sprays of water. Not all of us were born with green thumbs or fish fingers or whatever great fishermen have. Maybe you're not even sure you have a superpower, except the ability to eat a truly inhuman quantity of ice cream. Here's the thing. No one was confusing Jesus' first disciples for baby Einsteins or toddler Thors either. But working with Jesus changes at least 2 things for people. First, Jesus knows your design specs. Everyone else sees Simon, a rather mediocre small-town fisherman, with big biceps and bigger impulses, and somewhat smaller common sense. But Jesus looks at Simon, and he sees someone other people will follow. Jesus looks at him and sees a person capable of great leaps of faith. Jesus looks at him and sees a rock, someone with the potential for inner strength that will one day exceed his biceps. Jesus looks at you this way. He doesn't just see what you and others see now. He sees what you can be, what you will be. The superpower embedded in your design that was given to the world here and now for a specific purpose, to answer a particular need. The other thing to know about Jesus is that his presence changes what people are capable of. Simon and his friends had been fishing for hours and come up empty on their own. But when they cast their nets with Jesus in the boat, everything changes. Jesus never assigns someone to build a highway and then leaves them with a toothbrush and glue stick to just figure it out. When he assigns, he equips. He made small-town fishermen into pillars of a global revolution that changed the lives of billions of people. What you've pulled off on your own tells you nothing of what's possible when you take Jesus out in your boat. And Jesus doesn't always change people's jobs, but he always changes their stories. If you're wondering what your assignment is, what gift is yours to give, ask him directly. If you hear a call to leave the boat, follow it. But if you don't, assume you're called to stay in this boat for now. These are your coordinates. This is your garden. God has something to bring to life here. And there's something in you, whether you know it or not, that this lake has been waiting for. Let's read the story in Luke 5, verses 1 to 11. One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. He noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out onto the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it's deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish." "Master," Simon said, "we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, I'll let down the nets again." And this time their nets were so full of fish they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. I'm Meghan Good, and this has been Reading Jesus. If you'd like to join me in conversation, go to patreon.com/Jesus Collective Community and look for the Luke 5 post. Thanks for joining me for a few minutes in Luke, and I'll see you next time.